Monster Island is not going to be my vacation spot of choice. All right, we're not going to take a cruise there at any time. Yeah, well, this movie's not really about taking a cruise. So let's see what it is about, though, with the IMDb plot. Set in the Pacific, 1942, a Japanese soldier and a British prisoner of war are stranded on a deserted island, hunted by a deadly creature. Two mortal enemies must come together to survive the unknown. All right, definitely not a cruise there. I guess they were on a ship, but different circumstances, much different. Anyway, this is a new film recently on Shudder. So we will try to keep this spoiler free as possible. I don't know that there's too many twists and turns here, but regardless, we will still try to keep this spoiler free for you. And so let's talk a little bit about this and what's going on there. You know, the summary kind of covers it. We open up on the ship, kind of in a little bit of a dramatic scene here, talking with the prisoners and so forth. It's a little, early on, so it's a little kind of chaotic. You kind of get thrown right into it. And, you really don't know, who of these characters, are going to be the main ones, we're looking at here. Because you got, several people in this room and lots of talk about, giving up information and so forth. And some craziness before the ship is kind of torpedoed, and then lots of mayhem goes on, and basically the ship is sunk. And we're like, okay, so, obviously, we're going to end up on an island. That's the whole point of everything. And then long and behold, we find the two prisoners are the ones that ended up on this island. I say honestly, it took me a second. I wasn't sure. One's a Japanese soldier, one's a British soldier. So it kind of took me a minute to figure out that the Japanese soldier was also not in good terms with his people too. So that's why they were both prisoners. I thought maybe as it kind of started that one was holding the other captive, but I guess that wasn't the case. Regardless, they're chained together as they kind of wake up. They've washed ashore on this island, and when they both kind of come to, and they realize they're chained together, but they really, before they even like take in and suck in the circumstances. Hey, what just happened? We're on an island. They proceed to have this big fight on the beach. And, one looks like he's going to win, the other looks like he's going to win, and, lots of going on until they kind of get interrupted. And, once they get interrupted by something in the water. And, this kind of changes things for them and gets them to kind of settle down and realize that maybe fighting is not what they need to do here. And, they need to put aside, their differences, between their countries and the war and all that nonsense that just went on the boat. We get a little bit of time where they obviously have a hard time communicating. Neither of them speak the same language. They kind of got to work through that and kind of get settled in. Obviously, they have to find a way to break this chain that they're chained together. They eventually see some supplies that have washed ashore, and they're going to get through that. They're going to use some of that stuff, and so forth. But yeah, going through, all these steps here, basically at the end of the day, yeah, there's going to be a creature on this island. It's going to hunt them. Let's just say, they're not alone on this island, between the creature, and there are probably going to be a few other survivors of this, torpedoing of the ship. But it's mostly, just about them and this creature and surviving. So yeah, it becomes, obviously a survival horror movie, obviously a creature feature, um, and also a lot about two people, kind of uh, coming together, having every reason to hate each other, but at the end of the day, really, going the complete opposite. Really going for each other to survive, and there's gonna be moments where each of them kind of have to put their life on the line to kind of defend the other against the creature and what's going on. So it's a little bit of adventure. They're going to, comb through a little bit of the island, as they try to escape this creature, and so forth again. So, what's obviously, a couple of nice things about this film is obviously it's a different time, a different setting, different circumstance than we're, usually used to, going back in time a little bit, being on an island. And then the two characters, they can't really communicate, but, I think, they still do the best of it, and you as the audience do a good job. It's given the audience a good job of figuring out, where each is kind of coming from, and, buying into each guy, as the movie goes on, because I definitely think, the Japanese soldier, is more kind of, at ease, especially, at the beginning. It's kind of the British soldier that's kind of aggressive and wants to take it to him and fight, but that kind of all kind of washes away as the film goes on. Obviously of importance is the creature. I didn't do any specific reading about it, whatever, but from what I gathered, everything is practical. It looked practical. I'm pretty sure it was just a person in a suit. It seemed that way. The few things that I saw people post, it seemed that way. So, that was good. It didn't seem like there was any, CGI nonsense in there that, honestly, I haven't seen too many. I know we went through kind of a phase there. Lots of people complained about, CGI. Haven't seen, a lot of people complaining about it, and I guess, I don't know how much, it's obviously used, but, how much used and not, in some of the horror that we've seen, in the recent, I guess. Obviously with the sharks terrible. But we get none of that. We get some practical stuff here. So, the creature kind of reminds me of the creature from the Black Lagoon, in several ways. I think for those who are familiar, will probably kind of gather that there's some similarities there. This one, maybe look a little more fiercer and rougher and so forth. But definitely reminded me of that. So I guess, kind of if you want to be thrown back to that, if you're a fan of the creature from the Black Lagoon and that kind of thing, this, might also be another reason to watch the movie. It has some similarities there. I liked, the action they did with the creature. It ended up being pretty well. We had a couple of bloody moments. The creature was definitely violent. It definitely did get its hands on some people and made short work of them. The creature was obviously definitely motivated in trying to get the two soldiers here. And I think, each of them kind of had their chance at it and had some good moments and good fight scenes with it. They kind of add a little bit to it. I'm not going to say too much about the ending, and so forth, but they keep you kind of on your toes with it. I don't want to say too much and kind of spoil it, but, they do something to kind of kill it, and it seemed like it worked, but then I wasn't sure whether it worked or what the hell was going on. But, I think at the end, you're kind of left with what's going on there. Kind of intriguing ending, and I guess, well, I won't give specifics. I guess I said I'd be spoiler free. But I guess, kind of a interesting end, how they ended the film, and what kind of goes on there. Again, it's, for both the soldiers, everything just kind of comes full circle from, hating each other to liking each other, to putting their lives on the line for each other, to take out this creature, or at least to survive. Um, Also, I really think that by the time this movie ended, and even though, just, I don't expect it, and so forth, um, but it almost seemed like this was just, by the time it ends, it's just like opening the door for, if they wanted to do another one of these movies, and maybe introduce other monsters. And to be, quite honest, I thought we were going to get different types of monsters. I didn't think that we were going to be, just this one. It said Monster Island. Yeah, it's not Monsters Island, or whatever. But I don't know. I tried to avoid, even though, of course, I shared, information about the film. I just had it in my head that we were going to experience a movie where, you know, we were going to see a couple of different types of monsters. So I'll say that I was a little disappointed, even though, as cool as this monster ended up being, and they did some good stuff with it. I was a little disappointed that we didn't get, a few other different types of monsters. Um, but yeah, and I guess, the way is, or it is on the island, it almost seems like it is, the predator of the island. So maybe there isn't other monsters, but, I, wouldn't be completely, shocked or turned back if maybe they introduced, some more monsters at some time. It just seemed like by the time it ended, this is an island that, maybe somebody goes back to it another time, and maybe then there's either more of these monsters or some other monster. They don't really get into the huge details of it. But obviously, I think, you kind of gather of a hint of why there is a monster there. Just based on, if you know about the war, and the bombs, and that kind of thing, that maybe that's kind of where it came from, and so forth. You don't know. They don't really dive into that much, but I could see it if they did, something more. But I highly doubt it. I don't know. It didn't seem like, as it came out or whatever. And I don't know how well it went on Shudder, and I didn't see too many people, hugely talking about it. So I don't know. Um, but yeah, I think if you're into, something in a different setting, and kind of throw back to a creature feature, kind of at the end of the day, something just very simply two guys, trying to survive a pretty, a nasty creature. If that's kind of your thing, yeah, I think you'll enjoy it enough. Um, and so forth. And again, something a little bit different to, different time period, language barrier between the two people, and so forth. So, yeah, I think, if you're in that kind of thing, you probably enjoy this movie. Again, the monster was done fairly well. I liked how aggressive it was, and some of the kills that it did, and so forth. So, yeah, I was happy with it. Again, a little disappointed that maybe there weren't more monsters in the movie, but, it was fine. And I actually liked the ending. It was kind of intriguing, where it kind of left off. I don't want to say too many details, because I don't want to spoil it. But so with that, I think I'm going to give it 3 pools of blood. I don't know that it's a must watch for everybody, but I think for certain fans, I think you guys enjoyed it. So 3 pools of blood out of 5 for this one. And Monster Island, I'm glad I've never been there. So with that, horrorsquarereviews.blogspot.com is where you can find all of my reviews written in video. Certainly tons of video reviews for quite a while now, so you can like and subscribe and do everything else that everybody wants you to do here on YouTube. If not, no worries, it is okay. I thank you for your time regardless. If you've been following along and so forth, or even enjoying the shorts, section, I thank you. And of course, everything I promote, I thank you as well. Twitter, Facebook information down below. Feel free to reach out to me there. You want to talk horror, talk about this movie, other Shudder movies. You want me to review something, feel free to reach out. And definitely in the comment section, again, if you saw this movie and you liked it, or even if you didn't like it, your comments are welcome. And with that, I'll catch you on the next review, horror fans.